Hey everybody, it's JaneJohnston with the BriarHillGroup at REMAX Camosa, and I'm here with...
Hi everybody, it's Andrew Plank with LePage.
How's it going, Andrew?
It's great. How was your weekend?
My weekend was good. We rode on a property that wasn't for sale last week, and we found a property. So we went through the former listing realtor, and we wrote an offer anyway. The seller got a bit greedy, so we had to walk away.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I guess the word is out that you can sell your property for millions of dollars.
$1 million.
Well, that's not a lot. That's not a lot in Victoria anymore. But yeah, I mean, it's a good strategy if you've got somebody that you're working with, a realtor, and you're not finding homes, is to ask them to look through the expired listings from the last couple of years and see what may not have sold back then, but there might be still a willing seller, and have them approach the agents that had the listings, and they have the contact information, and off you go. It's a good way to do it.
Yeah,
I've been successful with that as well.
We may still bring it together. We'll see if that happens.
Mm-hmm.
But so I did a market update with my clients last night. We had a group community call, Zoom call, and I actually asked them, does this make you feel awkward? And they're like, no. And I said, because maybe, one might have a question the other one might be curious about, right?
Right. So that's why you did it. It was like a group workshop.
It was like a group workshop. So we all discussed what was happening.
It'd be really good for people who feel like they're like on their own in this hunt. Like a lot of buyers feel like they're probably like, oh my God, how is this working? And am I the only one who's losing out on offer after offer after offer? And to hear you're not alone, it's like a support group that you're doing.
Yeah, and they were, well, what was funny, one of them, well, two of them are looking in the same area, so then I thought, I better not mention that. But anyway, it was good because some did ask questions, and they were learning to use Zoom and stuff like that. So it was handy. It's a bit stressful doing it by yourself.
Yeah.
But it was good. So how was your week?
It was a good week. Yeah. Been pretty busy. I've got a few listings coming on. I was able to get some buyers into a condo that they've been looking for a while. So that's great. And lots of closings this month. So surprisingly, everything that a lot of what happened in the last part of last year was all kind of wrapping up this month. So yeah.
Good. Awesome. So I'm starting the year off strong. I told my husband last night this could be either a very good week or a very bad week because lots of delayed offers coming in today or this week till Wednesday. So either I'll get 3 or I'll get none or I'll get some.
It's a hard one for folks. I realize we're going to go into the stats today. That's what our discussion is, but Jane and I are, we'll often have some little discussions about what's going on. And it's kind of interesting because it's hard for folks to know what to offer on sometimes when delayed offers are happening, because they might see a property come up that's looking at offers on Monday that they quite like, but they like another one better that's looking at offers on Tuesday. But if they don't get the one on Tuesday, if they wait for the one on Tuesday and don't get it, then maybe they should have offered on the one on Monday. But if they offer on the one on Monday and get it, then they don't have the chance for the one on Tuesday that they really like better.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a really interesting time for folks to be hunting for homes when the opportunity to buy is it's a little bit different. Yeah. So
we were also talking about bully offers on the weekend in our community, the real estate community, and just how what a bully offer is when an offer comes in before the date designated by the agent. So the buyer's agent was going to push it.
Yeah.
And it puts a lot of stress on the integrity of the agent as well as the sellers, because if you agree to an action, everyone's going going to be trying to follow it. But sometimes you have desperate buyers who are going to try and push it. And anyway, what the regulations state is you have to let everybody know that there is an offer coming in. And so
you are going to delay offers. They're doing it because you have instructions from your sellers to do that. And the sellers can instruct you to not show you, to not inform them or show them. But generally speaking, if an offer comes in and it comes in early despite the instructions from the seller, you are obligated, unless you have those instructions, to let your seller know there's an offer there. And then the seller may choose to look at it. And if they choose to look at it, all these other agents who have been saying, I really want to see this home, and we know we're going to be making offers on Tuesday, and we've already done a pre-inspection and we're ready to go, they really need to be informed. And in fact, our rules say, like, you've got to have an even playing field. You can't just, if someone said, keep me in the loop, they have to have an opportunity to at least know there's an offer come in. And that your seller has decided to deal with it, to change the goalposts.
Right. What was surprising to me was these offers were not unconditional.
Yeah, and I heard of one that came in like well under the asking price as a bully offer, which is just a waste of time, really. A bully offer should be an offer. If you're going to make an offer like that, you're doing it to say, look, there's no point in you waiting till Tuesday to look at offers. We're going to give you the best you're going to get right here, right now. Please deal with it. And we may not be here Tuesday because we're going to go on if you don't deal with us today.
Right. Exactly.
That's a good offer.
Exactly. Okay, so do you want, well, first of all, I just want to mention we're not going to do a show next week because it's Family Day.
Okay.
And then the weekend after, we have Habitat for Humanity coming, which I think is really exciting.
That sounds fun. Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're gonna be talking about accessibility and housing. We're gonna talk about it in two different ways. One is they've built actually an accessible house for one of their clients. And also, if you don't qualify for a mortgage, potentially you can still buy a home through Habitat for Humanity. And so they have these homes that they need to fill and people can qualify. All right. So who is our guest today?
We
Andrew?
have mortgage broker extraordinaire Jen Lowe speaking to us today.
Let's bring her on. Hello, darling.
Hello, Jen.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good. How are you guys?
Great.
Good. I heard you won an award.
I did. Yes. Well, I've been a mortgage broker now for just over 8 years, and actually thanks to Jane for posing the question to make me or have me consider the leap from being a mortgage specialist in the banking world to being a licensed broker. And I've been working hard here, and I'm now within the top 5% of mortgage professionals in Canada.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. I received a diamond award.
Wonderful. Yay. Did they actually give you a diamond though?
Well, I get a beautiful, actually a really nice framed
Picture.
Yeah.
Picture. You got a picture of a diamond.
Picture of a diamond. Yeah.
Good. Hey, Jen, this is a great opportunity for you to tell, because it's always interesting when people go and they say, I'm going to go to the lender. And, you know, I deal with mortgage brokers. I deal with clients who have dealt with mortgage brokers and also mortgage specialists in the bank. Maybe you want to quickly tell us the difference and the pros and cons of maybe working with each way, because I have found that there's definitely an advantage in going to a broker.
The biggest advantage is, in the difference, start with the difference is when you are a mortgage specialist, and I can speak from my experience, I'm trained within the bank. So they train and have their own training system. You are not licensed. You're not required to renew that license and make sure that you're up to speed on many different things that are required by being licensed.
Mm-hmm.
And the advantages of working with a mortgage broker in that we have access to multiple lenders. So
Yeah.
when you go into your bank and you want to apply for a mortgage, here's the products that the bank offers, and either you fit within those products or that their guidelines for that product, or you don't. And if you don't, usually you're very discouraged and, oh, I was declined. I don't qualify. Whereas in the broker world, well, you might not fit within the qualifications of one lender, but we can qualify under a different lender policy. And
Right.
go ahead.
And then of course there's the fact that I find that mortgage specialists working at the bank tend to work bank hours. Did you find that to be the case?
Yes. I think they are, from my knowledge, and it depends on the bank, but they're commission based per se. So I don't know for sure, but I know myself, I'm working as a broker, I'm working the hours that my realtor partners are working to serve
Yeah.
them.
Because
So
realtors
I
work
find-
when the clients are needing us, which is when they're off work.
Exactly. Yeah.
Often people want to work with their bank because they figure that they have a relationship with the manager, but often that manager is not the person who's going to be processing the mortgage. So that's the hard part, I think, that people don't
have the
understand.
discussion that they used to have back in the day. When you think about, the old "It's a Wonderful Life" kind of movie scenario where your banker and you have a good relationship with them and they can take care of you.
And in my experience, when I worked in the bank, I worked at probably 5 or 6 different branches too, right? So you think, oh, I've got this great person, I love them, and then you try and get in touch with them, and they've moved to a different position.
Right.
The one other piece with working with a broker, and it's quite often a hidden piece too, is that if for condos, for example, one lender may not like restricted or a 55 plus building, for example, whereas I've got access to 5 or 6 other lenders that we could look at that.
Right.
So.
Good points. Thank you, Jen.
Yeah.
Sorry I just meant to bring it up and it came up on the screen totally. So I apologize for that. So can you guys see the whole show, or do I have to stop?
I can see like myself 3 times. And you 3 times. There we
Is
are.
that better?
No, well, that's just like the whole
Thing.
this is
Okay.
one. Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about what's happened in the past week, shall we?
Let's do it.
So new listings, 241, pending 204. So this is up over last week.
Yeah. Interesting, the price decrease and increase ratio is getting really close, where normally there's quite a big difference in that. There's usually a lot more price decreases you'd see every week, but we're just such tight inventory, nobody's likely to decrease their prices.
So the price increases, I've been watching new construction, and I think that's what it's from. They're upping their prices $10,000 to $15,000.
Okay. Yep.
Solds are stuff that's happened about 6 weeks ago. Expired, sometimes that happens when people are relisting, so and withdrawn.
People change their minds sometimes, or there's a life circumstance and people actually take their property off market and withdraw it. So interesting. 21 expired. So again, a good illustration that not everything sells. There's still properties that people are listing and putting out to market and are not getting picked up by the buyers because of price or condition or location or some combination.
Right.
Yeah.
And week to date is interesting to me. Month to date, I guess, 205 compared to 563 net unconditional sales in February, all of last year. So we're quite fast. New listings 272, and with 8 days on the market, that seems also high.
So if we say well, I guess February is a shorter month, but let's just say to round it that we're 1 week in. And so times 4, well, actually that's going to work. 4 times 2, 72. So it's actually, if that number continues, we're going to be a little bit more listings than last year.
Yep.
And unconditional sales is higher as well if we continue on that trend.
And some people are a bit afraid to list right now because they can't find a place. So the strategy is to make sure that you give yourself time to find a place.
Yeah, I've definitely been having that conversation, and definitely having conversation about with people about, if Victoria's not the place, would you consider going somewhere else where your money will go further? Duncan or the Comox Valley or
Souk.
Souk.
Souk, exactly.
The four-lane highway that's going in is amazing.
Right. And so that's a really good point. Is with Souk access getting better, then values will be better, and it's a great recreational place for a recreational lunch, and yeah, absolutely, definitely not as far to go as Duncan.
I think they need a hospital out there.
Yeah.
What I was telling a client on the weekend was normally, I'm focused quite a lot in the core, but this year I've been doing a lot of work in Souk, Shawnigan Lake, and Sydney. So really looking at outlying areas. And that's because the market's moved out there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is your overview. Average has gone up. Remember, we were talking about that cusp of $1 million. And average is affected by high and low. And we've had a lot of higher end homes selling. So January 2021 average was 1.220626, up 23% over last month, up 28% over last year, with a median of 975. So which is only up 8.2%. So that's the number in between the high and the low. But it's still up 18.2% compared to last year.
So it says, last month percentage up 23%, but year over year it's 28%. Are we saying that most of our rise in value happened in the last month?
No, most of the rise in value happened over the last year.
Yeah. But there was a 23% jump from month to month? I
think in terms of average, but median, if we look at median, it went from 8.2% over December and 18.2% over last year.
Right. And median is generally a better way to look at values. So it's a good illustration of the fact that if you're wanting to try to track where values are truly going, it's better to look at the median. And a $6 million home sale a couple of those can really skew the average.
So I was saying last night, and Jen, maybe you can correct me if I'm right or wrong on this. Are people hesitating over the $1 million mark? Is there like a real change in the qualifications that happens between 999 and $1.1 million?
Yep. You have to have a 20% down payment. CMHC they won't insure a property over $1 million. So you have to have a 20% down payment. Accompanying that is a sliding scale that does vary by lender. It's not only 20%, it could be 20% of the first $1 million, and then you need an additional 15% on the amount above $1 million or what have you. We are seeing, as prices are increasing, the ability to get an exception to these sliding scales are more available than they were before.
More flexible?
Yes, there's the right word. Thank you.
So what you're saying is you may not, if you're buying a $2 million property, you might not require 20% down. It might be more like 18 or once it scales, 17% down or something like that.
No, it'd be the opposite. It'd be 25 to 30%.
Oh, interesting. So it's an additional down payment, not crazy. So 20% down plus you need some additional down once you're over $1 million.
That's correct.
Oh gosh. Okay. Crazy. Yeah. Do you see anything? Is there any writing? Is there any scuttlebutt? Anything going on with perhaps changing that $1 million limit with CMHC?
Not yet, but what's interesting is that lenders have been changing their sliding scale. So, yeah, just that more flexibility on the sliding scale above $1 million.
Can you give me an example? So for $1,500,000,
Yeah,
for $1 million, you would need 200,000 down. For $1,500,000, you'd need
an additional, so it'd be 20%, say, plus an additional 15 above that. So I'm going to pull up a lender to confirm.
So we'll just go over this from last year. So December 2020 had 296 sales, and January had 179 last year. And we were at 283 this last month. So number of sales wasn't down. Number of units wasn't up, I mean, in terms of single family.
Unit sales.
Yeah.
No, but wouldn't you think that they would be higher if we had a higher inventory, if the demand, given the demand that we have, if there was more to choose from, considering that you were seeing, 7 to 15 offers per listing on a hot listing? That's quite a few buyers that have to go through the system. And if there was property for them, they would potentially be buying this up. So I feel like that number is low, would be higher if we had more listings.
Yeah. It's just low inventory.
Yeah.
So just to answer the question, and I just pulled up some quick numbers. So let's just say a purchase price at 1.2, your down payment would be 20% of the first $1 million, which would be 200,000, and then 60% on the amount above 1 million. So of the 200,000, you would need 60%. So your total required down payment is 320,000
for a $1.2 million house.
Yes.
Holy smokes.
Minimum down payment. So that's where
120,000. You raise your price above $1 million by 200,000. You raise your deposit by 120,000.
Yeah. Whereas let's just say if it was 20% of the full 1.2, it'd be 240,000. So instead of coming up with 240, you've got to come up with 320.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, that's my golden nugget for the day.
Yeah.
Now, that does vary by
I'm going to send that. You deserve that diamond award.
Well, yes, there's so many little things. And then the other piece is just under $1 million for a CMHC or a insured mortgage. The down payment is based on, so the first 500,000, you have a minimum of 5% down payment, but above 500,000, that down payment goes to 10%.
Minimum.
Minimum. Yeah. So it's not 5% of the full purchase price. Right.
So for a $999,000 property, you could have a down payment of $75,000. Is that correct?
No, it would be, yes, 75,000.
Thank you.
I rely on my calculator too much. Your brain there. But yes, that's right.
Okay. So that's quite a big difference once you get over the $1 million mark, that it just really, really eats into that. That's so what do you guys think that creates for the market? I mean, it creates a sense of, it really puts a lid on where people can go from there.
Downward pressure. You're going to see a squeeze happening over $1 million. And I think what's going to happen is, well, I don't know, but I think that the government or CMHC is going to have to change those rules because it's such a artificial number, really.
Yeah. Well, we're having this conversation here in Victoria, but this conversation has probably been had in Vancouver for years and Toronto as well. So this is not anything new right now. It's just that we're experiencing it here.
The problem is that this is a problem that affects Greater Victoria, Vancouver, and Toronto.
Yeah.
Well, it's only a problem for those who want to sell their homes.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And,
so price your home at $999.
Well, this is what it's funny because I have heard of, I was actually just talking with some clients yesterday about listing a condo, but they were talking their experience about selling an estate home in Vancouver. Actually, it was a condo in Vancouver, but it was over $1 million condo. The condo up the hall was listed at 1.1, and their agent said, you've got to list it at 999,000. And by doing that, you get all the people who qualify at the $1 million mark coming and looking at this property, but you also have the people who do qualify at 1.1. And so suddenly there's a lot more pressure. And if you end up multiple offers, the person who's going to pay the 1.1 is doesn't know necessarily that everyone else is only qualified for 999. You got a lot more offers on the table to compete against. So people who are willing to buy it are going to put their best foot forward. That property sold. The one up the hall is still for sale.
Hmm.
And they got a good price for it if they didn't get the 999.
So let's go to the next slide, just for the sake of time. So let me just take this, let me figure this out here. Sorry. Okay, total active listings. Ah, that's what I see.
There's a bit of a bounce though. It's like a trampoline. It's just that bounce that, you hit December and it just bounced a little bit. And to be fair, this happens every year. You see December, this curve every year, and it goes down to a low, but you can see that it's a much lower low than the year before. So when you're looking at this, it's really hard to see the dates on this, but for anyone looking at this curve, this is a 2-year, this shows 2 years, starting with probably January of 2019, then the next low is January of 2020, and now 2021, January is the month before. There you go, thank you. That's great.
So this is what happens when you are playing with PowerPoint at the very last minute.
Right.
Anyway, that's okay. So, right. And so actually this is probably a better graph. So it shows the actual listings to sales. So the sales are the line that's straight. The bars are the listings, and we can see we outsold last year all the way from June all the way to November. And we had very consistent sales in July, August, September, October, around 900. And then we oversold our inventory in December, which is why we're starting out January so freaking hot.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't you agree?
I wouldn't. I mean, I would. Yes. Wouldn't I?
Okay, average selling price over the past 2 years. This is always an interesting graph to me because it shows trend. And I think if you were to look like till February, it would have looked very flat. If you were to have a 2020 view from 20 years from now, and then it's really increased. Single family homes.
Mm-hmm.
And condos are looking very flat. They're just starting to pick up, hey?
They're ready. They're primed and ready to go. I really feel like condos they're the lag indicator. They're going to be coming up. Houses have jumped really high, and from my experience right now working with condo buyers, we're seeing multiple offers and tight inventory as well for anything good. So my feeling is condos. I mean, there are less. You have less buying power generally if you're sort of a person looking for a condo, because it's often a starter condo. There's definitely some deluxe condos out there, but if you've got the money, you're often going to single family or townhouse. But I feel like this is ready to go.
Townhouses have fared better than homes this past year because people have been moving out of shared spaces into places like townhomes where they don't have to walk through a hallway that they share with other people. And I can see, from September on, the market recovered faster than the condo market. I am finding the condo market recovering right now. Are you?
Yeah. Jen, are you doing a lot of condo mortgages?
Not that many, but I know when I receive a purchase agreement for a condo, they're not multiple offers situations as much, right? Mm-hmm. Like it seems, and I'm getting a nice long financing clause, which I like.
Right.
But why? isn't with the, now going back just in my observation too, when with the slide that showed the Greater Victoria statistics, does that include, like, what is Greater Victoria? Is it downtown, or is it
No.
include Saanich?
CRD.
Yeah, so that'll even include Souk and parts of, it'll, North Saanich, and it runs the gamut.
From
Okay.
Souk to Sydney, up to Shawnigan, and sometimes if people are listing up in Duncan as well. Depends
Really
what
the board shots. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a question. How do you handle multiple offers on the appraisal side? So a house is listed at $999 and it sells for $1.15 million. Does the appraisal just automatically allow for that?
No, it totally is based on, they have the same market stats. They'd be looking at the current market and determining an appraised value on that property, but the lender looks at the either the lower of the purchase price or the appraised value. So in a multiple offer situation, I haven't seen any yet, but this can start to happen where clients get caught in the multiple offer. They pay more than the property's worth. So they have to come up with that additional amount in cash.
I just want to clarify more than the private, like there's some arguments that say in a market like this that worth is really arguable and market value is what people are actually paying sometimes, but that the appraisal will come in lower because they're dealing with past data, and the past data is lower in a rising market. But
that's the argument, because it depends on the comparables that the appraiser uses, really. Yeah. And looking at those comparables and I mean, yes, as in that situation, I'd be referring back to realtors and, okay, are they using the right comparables? Is there more recent comparables that can be used to push that price point up? But yes, we haven't seen that yet, but it can happen.
And to be clear for people listening, the reason we're concerned about this is if the bank finds, let's use an extreme example, if you agree to pay $1 million for a property the bank is appraising at $500,000, you're not going to be able to get away with just your standard down payment. The bank is going to definitely want you to come up with the extra $500,000 difference additional to cover the equity value that they see that they wouldn't want to lend on something that you couldn't resell, and they would get their money, their investment back.
I've had one case where the appraisal came in low. Ironically, it was for house in Fernwood. The appraisal came in at $530,000 and the house was purchased for $535,000. So she had to come up with an extra $5,000.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're just going to go back to the show here. We'll just finish this off because we are getting a little.
Go on.
Now, Andrew does not like this screen, but I do. I love it.
No, I love this screen. I just didn't like it for sharing with people, and I appreciate you giving us the highlights here.
Okay. So what this is showing is that where the range of sales is happening and where the active areas are. And I'm looking here. Actually, my yellow marks have been moved to the side, but
they're out of sync.
They're out of sync. But what it shows is when you look at the numbers, like for instance, if you're going to buy in Esquimalt, you're going to pay over $2 million in Esquimalt. It better be waterfront, south facing on Sax Point. Yeah. As opposed to if you're buying in Oak Bay, where you're likely to find a house over $2 million easily, right? And so when we look at these, what we're looking for is where the activity is happening. So we see like Oak Bay has a lot of activity over 1.75 million, and it also has a lot of activity in the just over $1 million mark. In fact, if you find a house under $1 million in Oak Bay, you're doing well.
Yeah, and the reason you're not seeing much there in terms of sales at the lower point is just because they're not listing at that point. But you're seeing the sales starting in the, the under, 899 kind of range. But then the majority of them are at the 1.2 range. You can see that number 20. And then it sort of goes down from there and up from there, like above and below, you can see the numbers going down. So sort of the sweet spot is 1.15 to 1.2, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then if you go up again, you can see that there's another sweet spot just above 2 million where there's a lot of people listing just under 2 million at 1.99.
Yeah. And that's because there's different rules at that level too, which probably are not our viewers for today. But if anybody wants more information, they can talk to Jen about that. And then also Saanich East, which is one of our hottest areas, which is in here. Right in here, you can see there's a lot of activity under the $1 million mark.
Yeah. Look at that. 93, 62. Yeah. So you can see right at the 899, 850 range. That's kind of the sweet spot in the year.
Yeah. And then Saanich West is a little bit lower on the other side of the highway. And then the other hot spots are Colwood, which is at a lower price. And then Langford has a range up to and around $1 million and under.
Mm-hmm.
And then Souk, again, if you want to pay less money, you can just go a bit further out. So this is what this is saying here. So I like this slide. Someone presented this slide to me when I listed a condo, and the seller looked at it and said, okay, yeah, I understand why you're pricing the condo where you want.
Yeah.
So looking at the list to sale ratio over the past 2 years, we can see where COVID hit. That's the low little red circle, and then where we're at right now on the top right.
Right. So this is a ratio of properties listing versus property selling. And back in April, very small percentage of properties listing were selling. And now we're at a really, really high, that grayed out area is what we would normally consider a normal market. So we're really, really busy right now in terms of the demand for homes is really high.
Yeah.
What's interesting is the reason for the demand for why people are moving is that there have life event changes. They want the work from home, right? Yeah. Or, they don't need to live in town anymore because they're working from home. So the reason for that demand is definitely different than
it's cultural almost, right?
Yeah.
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 There's been a shift in the way that we live fundamentally.
On such a grand scale.
Yeah.
That we've never seen before.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing is the movement towards bigger homes. After everybody was moving into these micro condos and little homes and stuff like this, is people have started now to move into bigger homes, like a house on our street, which sat on the market for years before sold. And I think it's 6,500 square feet and it's ginormous. But people want to get away in their house from other people.
Or when they're on those work calls, they don't want
privacy. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. My husband hates it when I'm on a call, when I'm at home, because I'm in the middle of the house. But anyway, c'est la vie. Okay, so just looking at benchmark prices here, we're seeing an increase of 50.2% in North Saanich, 14% in Sydney, 18.4%. This is year over year in Central Saanich, and at the bottom there, Saanich East is up 7.9%. So everything's going crazy. I think I'm just going to end this here.
I mean, we've seen price increases like this, Jane, back in the days, like just before we got into real estate in the early 2000s, we saw, massive price increases. We saw back in 2016 kind of thing, massive price increases. Like we've seen, 15, 16%, sometimes 20% year over year. So what seems different this year is the low inventory, with people not really wanting to list. And just as Jen mentioned, this sort of mass migration. What do you guys think on that?
I think housing is the new toilet paper.
People have money and they want to spend it. They've saved so much money over, right? It's just, they've saved money. They want to move. Their life's changed, and or I mean, interest rates have dropped so much. You know, like you can get an interest rate for the first time ever that I'm aware of that starts with a 1.
Right.
You know, like that's just wild.
Speaking of which,
yeah. Well, the challenge,
you know what I'm talking about,
right? And this is where I am very busy, and you know, people inquiring, okay, I want to, like, can I refinance my mortgage? I want to take advantage of these low rates. My first look at and find out what your penalty is on your current mortgage. Because as rates have been dropping, the banks have decreased also, or their interest rates for the 1 to 4 year terms are way higher than what you get for a 5-year term. And by doing that, it's increased the penalties to get out of your mortgage. So then we just have to, we take the time to look at the figures. Does it make sense to do this now, or do we just wait till rates go up just a little bit and then your penalty will drop? But
right.
Does that make sense?
Yes. So what you're saying is the difference between my rate currently and my potential rate is so great that my penalty will be huge and it may not be worth it.
Yes.
Yeah, I was so dumb to lock in a few years ago. Oh, well.
Well, it's you're at the time, and I remember our conversation too. I mean, common sense at that point in time, common sense was like, well, the variable rate is higher than a fixed. So why would you take a variable? Like, why would you? But then the pandemic happened and variable rates dropped 1.5%. And it did unfortunately prove historically the variable rate has always outperformed the fixed rates.
Yes.
It was like, dang it.
We literally closed like the day the pandemic started.
last
year.
Yeah. You know, yeah.
All that being said, though, Jane, you know, the rate you got for the time and for your affordability and so forth was a great rate, and it's something you can afford to pay. It just happens that there's a better rate available now, but it's still a great rate that you have in the scale of all the historical rates that are out there. And that's not to say it's great to try to game the system and figure out how to do it the best, but that's really uncommon that people actually ever are able to do that. I'm really curious to know what happens when rates do eventually start to come up again, and how that's going to start to, I mean, even if it's in a slow burn, slowly rising, are we ever going to see an environment where, I mean, historically in the 80s, rates were almost, I think they were above 20%, but around 20%. But, you know, even if they were to go back to 7 or 8% at some point, how do we get from here to there? And what does that look like, let's say, over a 10-year or 20-year span? Like, what does that do for people?
Well, the interesting thing, I mean, right now, I mean, Canada is very conservative on any move that they do. Nothing is abrupt, right? Like they will change the rate, and then if you look historically, any rate change to the overnight lending rate, which we're talking right now about variable rates, when they change the overnight lending rate, they watch to see how that affects the economy for usually for quite some time. All Canadians are required to qualify based on a higher interest rate that's currently 4.79%. Right? So when they're qualifying for their mortgage,
There's a buffer.
Yeah. It's based on your current income right now. If you had an interest rate or interest rates increased to 4.79%, you should still be able to afford making your mortgage payment.
So Roy is asking, what is the usual household income to house value ratio in Victoria? Unless Ken is wrong, even the average incomes in Oak Bay and other Victoria areas seem low in comparison to the valuations. But I would say, taking into account the income, but also realizing that sometimes people have money that's not income, as in equity, and they have money in other sources, or they're taking it out of the stock market.
Yes. I mean, I get asked that question a lot. You know, how are people doing it in Victoria? How are people able to buy these $1 million homes and getting into the market, buying and selling, having that equity in their home? More and more people are having family help them. Parents are co-signing. Parents are gifting funds to help people with their down payments to help them get into the housing market.
Yeah.
So Roy is saying, so generally the real estate increasing is allowing for people to buy increased real estate. That's scary.
Yeah. Well, that's just, I guess, the way it is. If you get more, if your property that you're living in goes up, and then you choose to sell that property and move the money somewhere else, you're gonna need to use that. that's gonna be moved on to the next house, and so the values maintain. Yeah. I mean, people often I've had buyers look at a home and they say, "Oh, that seller paid only $400,000 for that home back in 2006, and now what they want $1 million. What are they thinking?" And they're so greedy, and I have to explain that they're taking that money and they're going to be putting it into something else, and they can't. That something else is going to be equally costly or more.
Well, the other thing is
buying high.
For the yes, like you have to look at relatively where you're moving across the market. But the other thing is also for a seller, every dollar counts. For a buyer, it's $1 for every $4 that they're spending. So it's a bit different. Like when somebody is selling their house and they get $1 million, they have $1 million cash. If I'm buying a house at $1 million, I may be putting down $200,000 plus monthly payments. So it's a different mindset. Anyway, so what's your prediction about what's happening?
Where are rates going?
Yeah.
It is interesting depending on which economist you follow and listen to. Interest rates are not expected to rise until 2023, according to the Bank of Canada. There may be a few bumps in the rate. They may slightly climb above 2%, but they're still going to remain lower than we've ever seen.
Okay, so it is a good time to buy and lock in at least for 5 years.
Yes. Assuming you're not going to move.
I can't see them really bringing interest rates up because I think it will just cause a collapse of the whole system.
Well, and it goes back to the reason for the demand, and it's just such a grand scale, right? The reason for this demand is different than we've seen previously. Yeah.
Andrew, what's your prediction of what's going to happen in real estate this year?
So, I hate predictions, and I keep getting asked. I keep telling people, everybody has smarter people than I are trying to predict where it's going to go. I can tell you that right now, it's a great time to sell. And if you're looking to buy, you have to be really strategic and you have to have all your ducks in a row. So that's all I can tell you. Where is it going to go from here? Anything could happen. Sorry if you can hear the background noise. The reno has begun again.
What I say, Murphy's Law, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So my prediction is we're going to start to see an increase in inventory. Hopefully prices will just remain steady so that people who've just sold can actually afford to buy and they're not priced out. That's my hope. And as more inventory comes in, prices should remain where they are. And I think because we're at that cusp where there's such a difference in financial requirements at $999 versus $1 million, I'm seeing that there's pressure to remain at that level. So we'll see. Cash is king as usual, right? Andrew.
Sorry, I'm muting myself again. No, you're right. Cash is king, and that's the thing. I'm seeing a lot of people taking higher risk, making offers that are unconditional, and also, I was just in conversations with some folks that are looking to buy a property. They don't have their home on market yet, and so they're looking at they're confident in the value of their home. They're looking at selling a home in Victoria and buying a home up island. But there's always that risk that what happens if the market takes a nosedive? What happens, or let's say, takes a turn, let's not say nosedive, but something turns and then they go to put their property on market and suddenly the time on market is longer and they're having a harder time selling and they have to decrease their price in their home in order to get it sold. It's a risk when there's a lot of things that we've all seen in this industry where you see how it's been going for a certain length of time. It looks like it's going to continue going that way, but we all know that it never does continue on forever on whatever channel that it's on. So that's why I hate predicting. That's why I feel like, look at deal with the market you're in and do the best you can with it. And beyond that, hope for the best, but be careful with the risks you take. And that's the thing, is just go into these things knowing that there are risks. And I counsel I love it when clients in this market are prepared to take some risk, but at the same time, it's also scary and they've got to go into these things with, and why I like it is because it's the only way they're going to be successful, unfortunately, unless they have really deep pockets and really have been really prepared, but you just don't always have time.
I find at the beginning, they're quite risk averse, and then they start to realize, oh, okay, I better up my game here. And they start to realize if they don't put more skin in the game, that they won't get what they want.
So the arc of the buying arc for some buyers, and this happened to me recently, where I actually said to them after they made an overpriced unconditional offer on a home that was above the price point that we'd started looking at, and they were finally successful in buying a home. But if on the first home we'd looked at, I had given them the advice to, go hard and do this and do that, they would have said, who the heck are you? I'm getting the heck out of here. I'm finding a new agent. But after having the experience of going through this process a number of times, they start to realize what's required to buy a home, and they take that advice, which is not advice like that's bad advice in some ways, but it's also advice that is, if you want to buy this place, this is what you have to do to make it work. And they don't always hear that the first couple times out, and you can't even give that advice the first couple times out.
What's funny?
What?
I present that in the form of a video now, so that they know it's not a personal message. Yeah. It's like, this is a general strategy and this is what works, so that they don't take it personally. And I had clients bully offer, and they bully below asking, and I'm like, I don't think it's going to work. But they go, well, let's try. And I'm like, okay, there's nothing to lose. And I'm not a fan of that offering technique anyway. So I said, if you had offered more, you would have gotten it. If literally 10% over. If you had offered 10% over, you would have got it. But now, because you didn't offer that, you're now competing with other people, and now it's sold over that asking price. But they probably would have taken that because it would have been such a good offer compared to the list price.
Yeah, and that's the hard part, is to try to tell somebody, this is a good deal right now if you buy this now. But if we're still looking for a home 3 months from now with the market rising, what you thought you were overpaying for before is going to look cheap today. And so you need to really get that into your head. And when we're talking about predicting where the market's going, if this arc continues, the prices continue to go up, then this is why people are overbidding and paying more, because they see, and at some point things do correct or they settle out or what have you. But for now, people are saying, I want to get into a home now before I have to pay more to get into a home later. And so how do we as agents in this market as it currently is advise people to give them the best they can? This isn't about agents trying to raise prices or make people buy more. We are working for people who are trying to make something happen, and we're strategizing and trying to give them the best possible advice to make that happen.
Yeah, the statistics of how it's been happening.
And the statistics. Yeah. So often now what I'm doing before we even offer is we're looking very closely at all the stats of what's listed, what's sold, where they went. And it's hard for that first purchase. Like yesterday I sat down with a client and they wanted to offer like a little weensy bid over asking. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's not going to do it. And they got 10 offers last night. And, relatively speaking, the price is going to go higher the more the offers are on the table. So I said, here's where I think it's going to end up. We ended up not offering. And let's just see. And then you'll know. And then I told them where I thought they should buy. So,
right.
It's a journey.
It's a journey. Thank you for being such an awesome partner, Jen. You've really helped my clients. I appreciate it so much.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, do we have Jen's contact information? She's been great for us as well. And
thank you.
I will add it. What's your number?
250-217-4925.
And I have to tell you, I'm really proud of you because I know how hard it was for you to do your first video. And here you are, totally acing it.
I didn't sleep very well last night. It's getting easier and easier, but it's not my favorite thing.
How could everybody be used to it now in the day of Zoom where,
yes. Yeah, it is our new world, that's for sure.
The new normal.
Yeah.
I'm meeting clients tonight for the first time over Zoom. That's how we're doing it now, unfortunately. So
yeah.
Okay, you guys. Well, so we're going to see you in 2 weeks. We're going to have Habitat for Humanity. The executive director is going to be speaking with us, and hopefully some people who are taking possession of their home, who have been in their home actually since just before Christmas, will be talking to us about what it's like to live in a Habitat for Humanity home and what the process is. It involves some volunteer work. And for those who are on the cusp and who now no longer qualify, this is a great opportunity for you.
Yeah. Some years ago, I volunteered for Habitat for Humanity with, I was digging a trench actually for a home that they were building over near Tilica Mall. And oh man, it was the rainiest day. We were all so wet, and it was a number of realtors actually, and it was really fun, but it was a wet day.
Well, I was lucky enough to be invited to the board, so I'm the real estate person on the board. So we have to, if you know of anybody who wants to have a development and wants to invest in getting, like, they could even just donate 1 unit. We can talk about how they finance it. So it won't be a total donation. Okay, you guys.
Excellent. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, sorry about the PowerPoint. It was a bit scattered today, but we'll work on that next time.
All works.
The information's still good. All right, have a good week, you guys.
Thanks, everybody.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.